All right, all right.
Okay. Hi, you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So there was a very disrespectful exchange between Tim Bradley and Mike Coppinger on ESPN. They were talking about the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. Now, understand how this usually goes on ESPN. Normally, one guest will talk. For example, Mike Coppinger, he'll give his take. And then after that, Tim Bradley, he will give his take. But this segment was a little bit different. Tim Bradley, he was the one being extremely professional. He allowed Mike Coppinger to give his take on the whole situation between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul without cutting him off. Because once again, this is what they usually do on these type of segments. So of course, Mike Coppinger, naturally, he's trying to defend Jake Paul. I mean, you can tell by the way he's talking, deep down in his heart, he desperately wants Jake Paul to become the new face of boxing. He wants him to be the new American White Hope. He attributes the success of this card to Jake Paul, not to Mike Tyson, but to Jake Paul. He called Jake Paul a superstar that knows how to promote a fight. But then he calls himself being objective by saying, oh yeah, but we knew Mike Tyson was a shot fighter. I don't want to see another fight like this again. Then he says Jake Paul, he carried Mike Tyson. From the first round on, he carried Mike Tyson. He said he could have knocked out Mike Tyson anytime he wanted to.
I don't begrudge Jake Paul one bit. Clearly the public wanted this and he delivered it. And it wasn't for me, it wasn't for Tim Bradley, it wasn't for Bernardo Osuna, but it was for a lot of casual fans who don't watch boxing. And it was exactly what we said it was going to be on this very show last Thursday. Jake Paul clearly carried Mike Tyson, and the most fascinating part to me here is I see all these people on X and on social media saying, oh, well, Mike must have really went easy on Jake. It must have been rigged. No, it was Jake actually that was going easy on Mike Tyson. The guy is almost 60 years old. Mike Tyson was shot 20 years ago, shot to pieces. And Jake Paul clearly could have knocked him out in the first round if he wanted to. Mike had no balance. Jake hit him with a couple of right hands. That was sad to see. And then Jake went easy on him. It was not boxing at all. It was a kind of a sad event. But again, Jake Paul clearly knows how to promote a fight as well as anybody. He's a superstar. And I guess people wanted this, but I don't want to see any more of these events.
First of all, before I even play Tim Bradley's response, let me give my response. Mike Coppinger, he doesn't even pretend to know anything about boxing. All of his points are race fan talking points. Because unlike Tim Bradley, who actually does when he responds to Mike Coppinger, he explains the situation from a boxing perspective. He's pointing out the things that Mike Tyson is doing in the ring and the things that Jake Paul is not doing in the ring, which is something that I did in my post-fight video about this fight. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and go into this clip of what Tim Bradley said in response. But keep in mind, like I told you guys, Mike Coppinger, for the very first time, because they've had these type of conversations many times, but for the very first time, Mike Coppinger, he was extremely disrespectful to Tim Bradley, not allowing him to speak without cutting him off. And it was a major disappointment because out of the two on the panel, Tim Bradley is the only one that is an actual fighter, a former world champion in 2 weight classes. So if it's anyone that we want to hear speak the most, it's going to be Tim Bradley, not Mike Coppinger, at least not on giving us a breakdown of how the fight actually played out and how it looked. So Tim Bradley, he tried to speak. And because Mike Coppinger did not like what Tim Bradley was saying about Jake Paul, Mike Coppinger, he would not let Tim Bradley finish the sentence. He would not allow us to hear what Tim Bradley had to say, at least not uninterrupted and clearly. And then he had the nerve to call Tim Bradley a Jake Paul hater. I'm going to go ahead and completely unpack that, but let's go ahead and get into this clip.
Oh my gosh, wait up.
I agree with that.
Wait up. I just gotta bounce off a Cop real quick. Come on, I got a rebuttal. Cop, you're telling me that Jake Paul let off the gas. Jake Paul, that's Jake Paul.
Yes.
His style. He sucks as a fighter. What are you talking about? He laid off the gas. He was afraid as soon as he got hit with that. As soon as he got hit with the swivel jab, as soon as he got hit in the first round and he felt that punching power, guess what? He didn't want to intertwine. He didn't want to tangle with Mike Tyson, because if he did, he would have stood his ground. He bagged up most of the night. Mike Tyson was trying to close the distance. He didn't want no part of exchanging with Tyson. Tyson caught him again.
Timmy,
I believe
he had no
third
balance.
round.
The guy was falling over his own feet.
It doesn't matter. That
Mike's
doesn't matter.
my favorite fighter of all time. My favorite fighter, even over Tim Bradley. And that guy could not stand up. Come on.
Let me ask a very rhetorical question. Why do non-black fans always have to try to validate what they say by telling a black person, you know, Mike Tyson is my favorite fighter? I mean, what did Eddie Murphy say in the barbershop in Coming to America? That's day one. That's day one. But coincidentally, almost every single non-black fan that will tell you Mike Tyson is their favorite fighter, they will discredit every single current black fighter on the top in the sport today. It's like a racist person telling you they have black friends. The other one they'll say is their favorite fighter is Muhammad Ali. But then they want to call Floyd Mayweather a runner. Then they want to call all the other fighters that move in the ring runners. But Muhammad Ali is their favorite fighter, floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee, moving more in the ring than Floyd Mayweather did? It doesn't make sense. And they can't say they like him because of what he stood for outside of the ring, because these race fans, they hate when black people address racism towards the black race because it makes them feel guilty. So just imagine if Muhammad Ali was fighting today, right? Everything he stood for back then, he stands for it today, right? He's fighting against racism, and when he's in a ring, he floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee. Oh, and not to mention he's a black Muslim. We know exactly how he will be treated. Same thing goes for Mike Tyson. If Mike Tyson was fighting today and he was knocking out all these European fighters, right? He was knocking out Latino fighters. He was just knocking out everyone who was not black today. And with the sexual assault conviction that he has, all those race fans will be telling you they hate Mike Tyson because of his conviction. Because this is exactly what they used to say about Floyd Mayweather years ago when he had his domestic violence charge. Mike Tyson would be hated even more than a modern day Muhammad Ali. You know why? Because Mike Tyson, he brings violence, and he brings it to the wrong race. See, back in Mike Tyson's prime, back in Muhammad Ali's prime, they're known for beating up other black fighters, which is another reason why you often hear non-black fans say, those are my favorite fighters. That makes them even less of a threat if they were known for beating other black fighters. Hell, that's called the lesser of two evils. And this is the reason why none of these non-black fans ever say Sugar Ray Leonard is their favorite fighter, because he was known for beating Roberto Duran and making him quit. And this is the same reason why Mexicans and other Latinos will never say Floyd Mayweather is their favorite fighter, because he was known for beating Mexicans and everyone else who was not black, like Manny Pacquiao. So let me get back to Mike Coppinger. This man is so disingenuous, trying to pull the Mike Tyson is my favorite fighter card. But how is Mike Tyson your favorite fighter and you're accusing Tim Bradley of being a Jake Paul hater? If Mike Tyson was your favorite fighter, you would not be biased in favor of Jake Paul. You would be biased in favor of Mike Tyson. Because when you say that's my favorite fighter, you're admitting you have an extreme bias in favor of that fighter. Because a Mexican fan, for example, would be quick to call someone else a Canelo hater, right? You're never going to hear a Mexican or any other Latino calling someone a Mayweather hater. So Coppinger says that Mike Tyson is his favorite fighter, but yet he gives all of the credit to Jake Paul for making this event such a success, when we all know that at least, and this is being generous, at least 90% of the people that tuned in, they tuned in to see Mike Tyson, hoping to just see the Mike Tyson of 15, 20 years ago. In Jake Paul's very last fight against Mike Perry, he did well under 100,000 pay-per-view buys. And this is a man who has over 20 million subscribers on YouTube. So Jake is definitely a social media superstar, but not a boxing superstar. I mean, because if he was, he would be averaging at least 200 to 500,000 pay-per-view buys, no matter who the opponent is. And as long as Mike Coppinger has been reporting boxing news, he knows that better than anyone.
He did not crutch him. He didn't say, "Oh, I'm a bag off." No, that's Jake Paul. He didn't want to get knocked out.
This is
no.
Bingo. Jake Paul didn't want to get knocked out.
Way.
This is delusion.
No, it's not delusion.
This is the Jake Paul haterade talking.
No, it's not. Because people asked me, they said, "Tim, was that rigged?" I said, "Absolutely not." I said, "That's Jake Paul at his absolute best."
I'm not saying it was rigged. I'm saying that Jake Paul went easy on him. Jake Paul
No, he did not.
It was
no,
obvious.
he did not. No, he did not, Cop. He didn't take it easy on him.
Tell me why. Based on what? Based on what?
Based on the fact that he got
right
caught.
hands at will, and then he stopped landing right hands at will.
Absolutely not.
See, that's what I don't like. Coppinger is asking Tim Bradley a question, and before Bradley can even answer the question, Mike Coppinger, he cuts him off again. And remember, once again, this was supposed to be Tim Bradley's time for him to give his take, uninterrupted, because we want to hear what the professional boxer has to say. And no, Jake Paul was not landing right hands at will. If he was landing right hands at will, he would have stopped Mike Tyson.
Tell me why. Based on what? Based on what?
Based on the fact that he got
right
caught.
Hands at will, and then he stopped landing right hands at will.
Absolutely not.
He didn't want. Either he felt bad for him, or he thought to himself, "It's going to be a bad look to knock out 58-year-old Mike Tyson."
Why would it have been a bad look to knock out 58-year-old Tyson? Why would that have been a bad look? Actually, it would have helped Jake.
Okay, now, I completely broke this down in my post-fight video. I said Mike Tyson, he looked his best in the first round. He looked at least like the same Mike Tyson we seen when he fought against Roy Jones a couple years back. His bobbing and weaving and coming up with the jab was giving Jake Paul a lot of problems. Jake Paul, he couldn't land anything. It was Mike Tyson that was landing the majority of the punches until Jake Paul caught Mike Tyson with the right hand. So after the first round, Mike Tyson, he didn't look the same anymore. He didn't look like he did in the first round. And it did look like he didn't have his legs under him completely, but he had enough to bounce back and forth and slip a lot of Jake Paul's punches. This is when Mike Tyson went into survival mode. At this point, you can hear Jake Paul's corner. They're urging him, "Man, you can knock him out. Go out there and stop him. He's slow on his feet. He doesn't have his legs up under him. Go ahead and take him out." And right after his corner told him that, Jake Paul, he tried to go in there and get the knockout. But you guys know what happened? Every time Jake Paul got close to Mike Tyson, Mike would throw the biggest hook while he was in survival mode. See, the thing is, because Mike didn't have his feet under him, he couldn't chase Jake Paul because, you know, Jake was moving a lot early in the fight. So only way Tyson had a chance is if Jake came to him. And if Jake got close to him, then he would be in range for Mike Tyson to possibly land that hook. And the very first time Jake Paul once again tried to go in and he tried to get the job done after his instructions from his corner, he actually got caught with Mike Tyson's hook, but it didn't land that cleanly. But after that scare, Jake Paul, he did not try to get the knockout anymore. And this is the reason why Jake Paul, he was asked at the end of the fight when he did his post-fight interview, they were asked, you know, why you didn't go in there and try to take him out. Jake Paul, he said, "I did try to take him out, but every time I went in there, I was afraid I was going to get caught with something." And Mike Coppinger, he heard Jake Paul say this. So this means Jake Paul does not even agree with what Mike Coppinger is saying to Tim Bradley right now. I mean, Tim, he could have said it to Mike Coppinger. He could have said, Jake Paul, he said it out of his own mouth. He said that he did not want to get caught. That's why he didn't go in for the knockout. He did not know how to go in there and get the knockout without getting caught because Jake Paul is not that skilled to do something like that. And if you notice, Mike Coppinger, he keeps saying, "Oh, you know, Jake Paul, he could have got the knockout easy," but he never explains how Jake could have did it because Mike Coppinger doesn't know himself. All Jake had was the right hand, and that was not working. Now, that was just one part of this segment where Tim Bradley finally says something that Mike Coppinger completely agreed with, and that was when Tim Bradley said it would have been good for Jake Paul to knock out Mike Tyson because he would have been the biggest villain in the entire sport of boxing.
It actually would have helped Jake. You want to know why it would have helped Jake? Because he would have been the biggest villain in boxing, in sporting history. He knocked out the legend Mike Tyson. Yes, that's why it would have been good. But Jake,
I think
said
Jake
he's
had
gonna
some
knock him
compassion.
out.
It's my opinion that Jake had some compassion.
Now, of course, Coppinger, he's going to agree with Tim Bradley saying that, because if Tim Bradley is going to say that Jake Paul would have became the biggest villain in the sport of boxing, then Bradley is almost making the same point that Coppinger is making. But let me tell you guys why that is nowhere near the truth when it comes to Jake Paul being the biggest villain in the entire sport of boxing. If he were to beat Mike Tyson, there will never be a time in America where a white American knocks out a black American and the white American is considered the biggest villain in the entire sport.
And I'm not hyping it up, I'm not making it up. I'll say it here, I'll say it again. This man has ability, he has reflexes, he has legs, he has everything, and he's white. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, he's gonna be the greatest thing to ever touch. Because you know what? He can't be hit. He got jab, he got everything it takes to be a future champion. I know.
When you have a black person that would say something like Shannon Briggs just said, that gives you an idea of how Jake Paul would be received if he were to knock out Mike Tyson. Now, of course, there's still going to be a lot of fans that hate Jake Paul and want him out of the sport. But to say he would be the biggest villain is ridiculous. You see, the truth is, old media and the majority of non-black fans, they were rooting for Jake Paul, just like Mike Coppinger. But a lot of them were ashamed to tell people they were rooting for Jake Paul because of the backlash they may receive. And it's no different than the election. You had a lot of people that were voting for Donald Trump, but didn't want to tell their friends or family members because they knew that they would be seen as a racist. And Trevor McCumbee confirms that to be true. If you guys don't remember McCumbee, he was Caleb Plant's opponent. He was an open Trump supporter that showed up at the press conference with a MAGA hat. And this is what he said about some of the Trump supporters.
I think a lot of the fans and just people, America in general, they need to realize that there is some people on that other side that they had no idea was actually voting that way, because a lot of people are quiet about it.
I'll close out with saying this. Just remember, guys, it was old media's idea, Chris Mannix, who works with Sports Illustrated, to put Jake Paul on the front cover of Sports Illustrated. And this was a while ago. This was way before the Mike Tyson fight. So listen, guys, everyone knows that Terrence Crawford is the undisputed #1 best fighter in the world today. And even old media knows it. They've been trying to fight it for 10 years. Crawford has been the best fighter in the world for damn near 10 years. It's gotten to the point to where even old media, at least the vast majority of them, they know how biased it would look to put any other fighter above Terrence Crawford today. And that includes Chris Mannix. Chris Mannix has a pound-for-pound list inside of the Sports Illustrated magazine, and he has Terrence Crawford at #1. So how is it possible Chris Mannix can have Terrence Crawford at #1, the best fighter in the world, on the Sports Illustrated magazine, but yet Crawford has never been on the Sports Illustrated cover, but Jake Paul has? Just think about that for a second. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.
All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Deki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodeki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.